Content warning. This episode contains spoilers for all of Westworld Season 1, and a lot of Season 2, and a little bit of Season 3. Discussions of violence including murder, bodily mutilation, and suicide. Discussion of imperialism, colonialism, and slavery, as well as racism. Brief mention of mind control, and mention of sexual assault.
Will is a gamer. That's how this all happened.
If you think about it, Dolores is kind of my Zelda. Like, I'm just saying.
We have cracked this thing wide fucking open.
Dolores is kind of my Ramona Flowers.
I'm Pioneer Kanaya Merriam.
I'm a Necrodile being led on a leash.
I'm the curls in the bartender's mustache.
Howdy, y'all, and welcome to Will at Homestuck, a podcast where we put media in the Homestuck blender to see what comes out. I'm Jonaya Riley, and I use she/her pronouns, and you can find me at AltUniverseWash on Twitter.
I'm Bucky Grant, and I use he/him pronouns, and you can find me at raddifferent on Twitter.
I'm Riff. I use they, them, and he/him pronouns, and I can be found at Antler Council on Twitter and Skeletorific on Tumblr.
And this week, we're returning to the world of Westworld to put the cast into a SBURB session. The characters we have are Ford, a muse of time role-playing as a lord of life, and a prospect dreamer.
Next is Arnold, a lord of space who inverts/grimdarks into a muse of doom and is a Durst dreamer.
Next, the Man in Black, a page of doom role-playing as a Prince of Heart. His moon is Prospect.
Dolores, a prince of mind role-playing an heir of rage and a prospect dreamer.
Maeve, a thief of light, a Durst dreamer, and the Vriska.
Bernard, a seer of time role-playing an heir of void, a Durst dreamer.
And Teddy, a page of space and a prospect dreamer.
The first question, or set of questions, is what is the nature of this session? What form does SBURB take in this session? And how does everyone get involved?
I think we're looking at a standard session, but I think the twist here is that we've actually got a scratch session. My proposal would be that the beginning part we see in time in the plot of the show is the pre-scratch, and then everything we see in the kind of modern timeline leading up to the conclusion is a post-scratch timeline.
All right. No, I like that a lot, actually, because it explains, like, the memory weird and time bullshit.
It also is going to be really interesting in terms of what characters are, like, we've given a bunch of characters class specs, but they're also, like, they will be recurring in the same instance in both the pre-scratch and post-scratch timeline, so that has implications about their status as player characters.
I didn't do too much interesting with, like, what that implies for the characters' class specs or anything, although I did play around with it with Arnold and Bernard.
Like, Ford and the Man in Black may have, like, been able to travel from one to the other in the sense that, like, they traveled through, and then Ford just, like, built a robo Arnold because Arnold died before the scratch or something like that. That opens up a lot of interesting things. I do like that.
Yeah, I kind of like the idea of Dolores being like potentially she is the one who Arnold has performed the scratch, but something goes wrong to the point that, like, she's glitched out of their session but enters the new one as a new player character and is having memory issues as a result of it. So she's basically going through her loops again, only to realize, like, wait a minute, this feels very familiar.
I was going to make the case for Dolores being the one that performed the scratch, since she's the one that I see the dividing line as being, I know it's not strictly in sync with the plot of the show, but I would say the dividing line is like that Arnold being killed or Dolores killing Arnold, so that kind of being the event that initiated the scratch, although I'm kind of playing around with the timeline a little bit because I would do things like putting Will in as a pre-scratch entity versus the Man in Black being the post-scratch, so not exactly lockstepping with the show, but hey, we can do that, so...
Yeah, that's fine, because we could essentially say Arnold was present to see the first iteration of the park of the game go wrong before he decides that he can't take part anymore, not prior to the park opening. And that basically would be long enough for Delos to have acquired the company and have sent people in to look at it.
Mm. I kind of like the idea of like we classified Teddy as the page of space, which means he would be tasked with frog breeding duties. And like he's also like he was around when Dolores killed Arnold's, or in this analogy, I guess, performed the scratch. So I kind of like the idea of like part of what leads into Arnold's despair is like Teddy as a page has such a long road ahead of him that he keeps fucking up the frog. He's like, we're never getting out of this. This fucking sucks. Let's just reset it and like start over. And Ford decides to bring Teddy with him over the divide.
Ooh, yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. I'm assuming we're going with a human session on this one. We're not going to try to do any weird troll shit for this one. Unless you want to do weird troll shit.
It's been a while since we've done weird troll shit.
It has been a while. I didn't think of any of it, but if you want to go down that road, we can.
The weird troll shit would be easily leverageable, particularly if we take anything from season 2 and beyond into account. Because, like, Maeve gets, like, powers in season 2, and, like, it's fucking spoilers, but, like, the... I guess that can be vague enough to not really be useful spoilers, because I didn't tell you when or what. But, like, or just some of the... No, see, the consciousness voice could be sort of explained as like an exile thing and moving into consciousness. That's not really a power necessarily, but like the regeneration, the difficulty dying, that could be difficulty being injured both by guests in the park and by the robots, like by the hosts. That could be interesting to explore with trolls because they're like much more easily injurable.
Okay, let me run this by you. The players are, for the most part, trolls. Ford and Arnold are not. So we sort of have an inverse Homestuck setting where instead of trolls overseeing a human session, it's humans overseeing a troll session. And essentially, like, trying to get them out of the Alternian consciousness into something that's a little bit more recognizably human.
What about here's one way to look at it. What if the priest I did Homestuck doesn't necessarily support this in canon, but what if the initial session pre-scratch is Ford and Arnold and everyone else is human, and then the post-scratch is a troll session? I don't know if there's anything that would support that kind of thing happening other than the fact that this is all made up and we can do what we want.
I could see it because, like, Earthsea, like, it's not a troll world, but it is more troll heavy and like has a very different continuity. So there's no reason to think that evolution would necessarily happen the same way. No, I like that. And then Dolores has some kind of mutation going on as a result of her status as like a weird, scratched human troll crossover.
Right. She comes back as like a mutant blood or something like that with an exceptional amount of self-awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Cankry vibes. Unfortunately.
Are we assigning
No, that's
Dolores
powerful.
Cankry?
No, that's powerful, actually. That's very powerful. And we're assigning her signless.
Specifically signless, yeah.
We're assigning her signless. Ooh, I do like that. That's actually super fucking appropriate for her season 2 and 3 arc.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a little appropriate for season 1.
Okay, so I guess if we're gonna do a troll session, what are our blood types for the people that are not Ford and Arnold, and I guess Dolores, who's the signless equivalent?
It's cheating a little bit because you did just say powers for Maeve, but I do think either gold or rust blood is just very appropriate for her temperament overall. This idea of like coming from the bottom of society, but like I've got grit and I've got intelligence, and you can't tell. Gold blood, especially with like the hacking motifs, I think would also be very appropriate.
I'm tempted to just say cerulean blood because she's so Vriska, but I do kind of like that.
And because her powers specifically are involved with influencing people around her by talking to them and then just by thinking it. So, because her powers evolve, and so like she does get the cerulean blood suite of mind control powers as well. But also, I do agree with like we talked about this in the last episode. She also gets what I called an improvement on the Vriska character, that she has like an amount of clash consciousness as a sex worker and as a member of the working class. So like that.
And I think that motif of like clawing herself up from the bottom of the heap like really hits harder if she actually is on the bottom of the heap, as opposed to Vriska, who's never been there.
Right. I kind of like Rust's blood for her, so she's got kind of like a little dash of Aradia in there.
Yeah, I would agree.
So, Bernard, which now I'm realizing has the grim association of being essentially Ford creating Arnold's trollsona.
Yeah. Oof. Wow. I would put him. I kind of want to put him sort of in the middle of things, like as a Jade blood, but I don't really have a specific reason for why. So maybe if someone else has thoughts on that. I like Jade bloods, but I mean, I don't think that's sufficient.
Well, you've also got the Brooding Cavern associations, which like really ties into like he is kind of in charge of like the creation of, you know, bots within his own society. So him, like that whole behavioral obsession could transfer over very easily because now he's mostly focusing it on grub development.
What are we going to do for Man in Black and Teddy as far as blood types?
Oh yeah, Man in Black is a trollsona, isn't he?
Yes, he is a trollsona.
Will is a human, but Will makes a trollsona. All right, what's Will's trollsona? Probably fuchsia.
He's a fucking fuchsia blood, yeah.
Sea Dweller. I feel like Violet, just because fuchsia has like so much riding on it, I don't think it quite fits because like there's so much going on with fuchsia. Violet, though, Violet hits that sweet spot of privileged asshole for me.
Oh, he's Dualscar. Oh my god, he's Dualscar.
I would make the case that Dolores is our cerulean blood. Oh no, I'm sorry. She's the signless. So Dolores is the signless.
Well, she's a mutant, but is she a candy red mutant or is she a lime blood mutant?
Maybe a lime blood mutant.
I do like lime blood. I think candy red kind of heightens those human associations because then she sees Teddy bleeding out and is like, wait a second. Hold on.
Yeah, I think candy red is a good one. Let's go with that.
Because then we have now effectively set up a Bernard Dolorosa signless relationship.
And we've got Maeve as the handmaid and oh no.
Yeah. Fuck, what does that make Teddy?
Teddy, I would put him as a bronze blood. He's very Tavros.
Yeah, I could see like I said, I feel like Teddy was probably taken over from the previous session, and like I think his human body is preserved, but I could very much see him going under, like he thinks he's a bronze blood, where it has like wiped his memories to that point.
Yeah, that definitely. Given how much like personality overriding shit he has going on, I think that's appropriate.
Yeah, because I was gonna make a joke about Horus, because I believe Horus is the page, so like that would be Darklear, but that has absolutely jack shit to do with Teddy.
Okay, but if we want a cerulean, I feel like Charlotte is a really good candidate for that.
Oh, hell yeah, she's Arania. She's fucking all the way Arania.
She's such a circuit. Like, there's so, like, the only reason I think she didn't net the Vriska role is she just wasn't in season 1 enough.
She's got too much Arania shit, that's the thing.
Yeah, because she very much continues the Arania shit right up until things happen. Who do we have? We have Hector and Teresa, and Lawrence is a Necrodile.
Well, Teresa, we had Black Queen as part of her thing. Yeah. She was a split on that one, which I think it can go either way, but I do like Black Queen.
Yeah, because we have a couple of exiles here. I think it would be interesting if the Charlotte could still feasibly be a troll because she's like upper management, but I think the people working there, it would make sense if they're carapaces. Like it's a mix of trolls and carapaces, so that would track for Teresa and Lee being carapaces.
Well, she could have woken up early on her moon, and as a result, she's like much more ingrained in the management of it all.
I wanna pitch Hector being a human that stays a human after the scratch for reasons that are not specified, just because I think it's neat.
I do think that's funny, if only because him just straight up refusing to go undercover and just wandering around like, no, try it. I dare you.
He's got Armistice as an exile to help protect him, so
Okay, human fuck you. No, that feels appropriate for Hector's whole ordeal. He's like, I am sexy and I am gonna do crimes. What are you gonna do about it?
exactly. And on that note, we have Logan as the crime Dursite, and we have Lawrence as the Necrodile.
Well, wait, shit. We said Logan was a crime site, but that would he's part of the Delos Corporation pre-Scratch.
He is. So, well, that would make him actually that would work because he could be game construct. If we interpret Delos as being kind of equivalent to the Skya entity, then that would make him part of the constructs of the game. So he could be a Dursite agent that then post Scratch goes rogue and does whatever bullshit.
Yeah, you know how I mentioned that like it's entirely possible that Logan was essentially Will tossed a carapace and a sprite out of like some desperation. He mostly spends his time giving him advice to go do crimes. Sprites seem like relatively immune to scratch bullshit. So I like the idea of him just like still kind of knocking around, but like in the shadows.
Yeah, no, I like that.
And that tracks also, because he like I guess this isn't necessarily spoilers because they basically tell you this. He like he doesn't recover from being sent off naked into the wilderness, and he's returned to the real world and spends the rest of his life like just drinking and doing drugs until he does too many of them. Like that's kind of his end, and then he just sort of peters off, and that's why Will gets to take over the Delos corporations. Everyone thinks he's washed up. So like that I would like to maybe pull him back a little bit from that and having him be like a like God. Oh, okay. The way we could sort of run with this, but maybe potentially make it not suck so much for Logan is the sprite. He's a sprite that sort of like he does make it from one session to the other, but he might have to do that by traveling through the furthest ring and through the dream bubbles, and he may come back after spending way longer out there than anybody thought was possible.
Yeah, that kind of plays into his lack of mental stability when he comes out on the other side.
Even as far as sprites are concerned.
So I think we've got all the people that we actually talked about specifically, don't we?
Yeah, all the people we need to give blood colors to.
Right, and all the various like game construct entities. I'd kind of like to go down the main cast, and if y'all did lands for them, because I did, and also sprites, because I think those would be appropriate in this case. Okay, so for Ford, I have the Land of Clocks and Regret. And for his sprite, I have a young version of himself.
Oh, fuck yes. Okay, Muse of Time, okay.
Oh yeah. Second one, yes, yeah. Yeah, also he does get to if he's a time player, he does just well, I guess Dave also had clockwork. Yeah.
He had clockwork. Yeah, I was trying to riff off of Dave's without completely ripping it off.
Yeah, no, I like that though. He's just got a lot of British timepieces walking around. That feels appropriate to me.
I was thinking of pocket watches, but it was a little clunky. I figured clocks is a little punchier.
Is it just the Felt Mansion? Do you get there and it's like 0 out of 1 billion clocks destroyed?
Lee Sizemore's like, I don't know what it is, but that guy's planet pisses me off. Like, I hate it.
I regret to inform you, Lee Sizemore gets a redemption arc in season 2. I don't know if I already bitched to you about this. So that kind of tracks with Jack getting like development in the intermission too.
Fine. Okay. So what about Arnold?
For him, I had the Land of Mausoleums and Desolation, and I had Charlie as his sprite.
See, I like that because that has space theming and doom theming. So
I was thinking of the alphas where they all have some form of like tomb or something and a thing. Although theirs were noble gases, I believe. I didn't use that, but
Yeah, specifically because it was an inert session and they were unable to communicate with each other and metaphors.
Which, like, there's like, I think that might, like, if we're having it that he scratches the session because he becomes convinced there's no success. Having a dead planet, I think, really contributes to that psychologically, especially when your dead kid is also your sprite.
exactly. Like that's very, very like Charlie's death was Bernard's core or keystone memory, but it was the defining memory for Arnold once it happened. So I think that's important.
Can I add something to Ford's Land? Can I make it clock towers just to make it just to give it
I like that.
because that gives it a similar like large opposing or a large imposing structure that opposes the structures on Arnold's planet and gives them like related planets because they are both master classes.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, I'm picturing like this large empty planet that like you just sort of move between graveyards for the most part. And like you've got to dig up graves to look for like the frog bits. Necrofrogs, zombie frogs.
It's gonna be difficult to make something living out of there. Well, might not be difficult, but sure gonna be depressing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Lord's got an upward climb ahead of him.
So for the man in black / Will, I actually had something written, but while we were talking about the theming in the previous ones, I thought of a better one, which is the land of mirrors and shadows. And he doesn't have a sprite. That's why he's got this crime Dursite that's following him around.
That's why he thinks he is a heart player.
So much of him is like, he should be reflecting, but he doesn't.
I like the idea of him like immediately assuming, okay, it's like a mirror house. My personal quest is I've got to like find my way through this maze. When in reality, it was like, no, we just literally wanted you to take a good, long, hard look in the mirror. No, but I like that, like, you can add a little bit of Alice in Wonderland imagery there, too, where it's like he's just wandering around this planet for hours and hours.
Yeah.
And finally, like, in the event that he would to look in the mirror for a while, he would realize he can reach through it and grab what he's looking for.
Wow, that's awesome.
God. He spends years and years and years and years and years there. Cool. Dumb shit.
Dipshit.
I mean, he did. It's what he did in the show.
Yeah, I was gonna say that distills the show down into like its essence for him.
Well, that's why he's so obsessed with Dolores. He's like, okay, like, clearly I'm a heart player, obviously. And maybe a mind
Nope.
player can help me, like, figure this out. And she's like, no, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
So speaking of,
Yeah, Dolores. I would say the land of spyglasses and memories, talking about the mirrors and this being a way of actually looking into something as opposed to self-reflecting. Oh, and Dad's sprite. Her sprite is her dad.
oh yeah, yes, yeah.
No. I think what I ended up going with for her, like I said, Dolores was like the only one I had a land for, is the land of murals and reveries.
Ooh, no, fuck my
'Cause,
bullshit.
like,
That's a cool one.
Yeah, yeah.
No, because like she's associated with painting, and I think like reveries is obviously a term in the show, but like churches are super important to Dolores.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
I was trying to figure out something other than spyglasses because I was like, okay, she's got the painting. I was gonna suggest like a kaleidoscopes or something because like that is more painterly. But murals just kind of why not make it be painting? The thing is, it can just be paintings. Is the thing about it?
That's my thing, is like we get our little Dolores character introduction in her bedroom, and it's like, you like painting. I do like Dad Sprite, but the important thing is Dad Sprite is glitched. So like
Yes,
he's like saying
absolutely.
like even by Sprite standards, it's cryptic bullshit.
That's perfect. Oh, I like that.
That and Dad Sprite can then be a mechanism for the Delos Corporation to. I mean, he's gone from being like an NPC to being a game construct, so he can be exploited to, for instance, put data in him and use it to transport it out of the game.
Oh shit! I just no, I realized we had Dolores role playing in Air of Rage, and like Rage is all about that religious imagery. So like
That's
like I said,
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
all right, no, I'm happy with that.
So for Maeve, I would say she's the land of whiskey and memories. So kind of going for the idea of drowning yourself in whiskey and the whole saloon theming, and then the fact that she's very much about memory. I had her sprite being Clementine.
Yeah. Whiskey and nostalgia?
Kind of like that. Yeah.
Because it's not just memory, it's the specific good memories.
Right. Yeah, whiskey and nostalgia. I could dig that.
I kind of like the idea of that being her personal quest, is she's got to like essentially go around this giant bar of a planet and finagle information out of like drunk clients and try to time it right.
Oh, like, and specifically, maybe not all of them are like this, but a lot of them, especially the ones she has to talk to, are drunk in like the rambly, meandery, old person sort of way. Maybe they're not all old, but they sort of like, they're lost in their own nostalgia, and she has to tease the correct information out of them, which is annoying because you're doing a lot of emotional labor.
Yeah, she has to steal information from them, so because they don't want like they don't want to give it up just straight away.
And then one of them is like, "Here's to the lady with the white shoes."
Oh, shit. Yeah. Also, the emotional labor thing tied into her role as a sex worker, and a lot of the expectations that carries, I think, is very meaningful.
Yeah. Not only is she working class laborer who does a lot of emotional labor, not only is she a sex worker, but she is instantly, imminently replaceable and repurposable, and so are all of them. And that was just a very good encapsulating moment of what the working class really would be to capitalists who would do this to us if they could.
Yeah, this is a very anti-capitalist show, and it just kind of like doubles and triples down on it as you go further and further along.
All right,
Bernardold. I had for his the land of fog and rulers, as in the measuring device, and also Charlie Sprite. I was thinking of his role as kind of a designer, an architect kind of character. I think a fancier measuring device might be interesting to go with too, but that's what I came up with off the top of my head.
Here's the thing about the Charlie Sprite is that Ford did have to build a robotic Charlie to kill off and put in the Sprite because he didn't take Arnold's Sprite with them. He couldn't because Arnold got rid of it.
And he totally did that because part of the whole deal with Arnold is that Ford implants this memory in him specifically as his keystone memory.
Gives him a fake son to kill. Like, the fuck is wrong with you?
Just to underscore how fucked up Ford is.
Okay. Walk me through the measuring argument. The fog I understand, but...
Right. So I think I see him as being a character that has a lot to do with like design and understanding things in a technical way, not necessarily being the one to design them, but being someone that kind of works to understand it. So he's kind of not quite an architect, but he's not just keeping things going either. Like he's kind of designing things, but kind of not.
Calipers.
Yes, that would be good. Like he's like a draftsman. That's what I'm thinking. He's doing some work to design things, but not actually creating it. So Land of Fog and Calipers. Yeah, I like that.
Like, can you imagine, like, massive... I'm sort of imagining almost like that iron in Fuliculi. Like, there's these massive calipers standing on the landscape that are shrouded in fog.
Part of why I was asking is, like, I wanted to try to import some Alice in Wonderland theming there just because of how often that book comes up, and I think I've got it now. So you've got a Land of Fog, and you've got him as a seer, so obviously his role is to understand. I like the idea of him seeing one of his consorts in the distance and then running away and disappearing into the fog, and he essentially has to follow them through his planet and, like, seek after them.
Ooh, I like that.
So he's got his own white rabbit.
Could the consorts be rabbits on his planet?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
And plus that has, like, some scientific, like, experimental overtones to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it also connects into the imagery of like rabbits are notable for their breeding, and like his part of his deal is essentially creating people. He's responsible for helping to create the hosts in the show. So I think that has some imagery that could tie a little bit into his role in the show.
So I'm thinking more about Bernard being Jade, and I'm having some thoughts about the new place being a troll session. I think this is something Ford does not have control over. So in the time between when the park begins and when we get the scratch, or in the time when the new scratch session begins and when we actually start to see our characters, they're having an impact as Ford's sort of watching. He like ages a bit, and that means that he gets to observe trolls for a while, and he specifically chooses Jade blood because of its breeding implications like that.
Well, yeah, in order, like, the thing, like, obviously, SPURB has to give you the tools to repopulate after you've won the session. So for humans, that's as simple as, like, making some ecto clones and turning them loose. But I like the idea of Bernard with the matriorb, and, like, for targeting him specifically to get access to the matriorb.
I like that too. That's a good way to look at it.
And then Teddy's
the last one I thought of a land for. I have him as the land of dust and wheel guns. And I have for his sprite the version of Wyatt that he keeps seeing in his memories. Not the actual Wyatt, because we know that was Dolores, but that like dude with the beard and the army uniform.
Okay, let me know how you were thinking of Wyatt appearing to him, because what immediately jumped to my mind is like the clown doll that Gamzee plants in Dave's dreams.
Oh.
I like that. I was just thinking of it just being like a floating version of that dude, but like the clown doll I think is a good one. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Ford planting like a little doll of the Wyatt persona into Teddy's dreams, and that's part of why it's haunting him so bad, is like, because he can't give Teddy his memories of Dolores, but he needs to keep Dolores around, and he needs Teddy to work with Dolores, so he kind of plants these proxy memories into his dreams.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that a lot. And I went with dust as the, not so much just for the Old West imagery, but also just that idea of insubstantiality, because Teddy is such a hollow vessel for the narrative, and I thought that was appropriate, plus the Old West imagery was definitely a part of it.
I like that. Yeah, and as the space player, frog breeding duties fall to him, so with a page, like, good.
It would be dust and frogs.
Dust and frogs. Yeah, hell, sure. Dust and frogs it is.
He does actually have to have frogs at the end. It's been a minute since we've done lands, so I forgot about the convention, but...
Oh, like a big empty desert, and like frogs are so few and far between that like he can spend weeks and not find a single one.
Right. So, wait a minute. Quick thought on that. Frogs, generally speaking, but what if it wasn't a frog? What if it was toads? Because they are actually living in the deserts.
Ooh.
There are desert-dwelling toads.
You know what? Like, nothing says it, like, specifically has to be a frog. That just ended up being the convention for... Yeah, no. Toads.
Right.
Yeah, fuck
Dust
it.
and toads. I'm thinking like those big-ass Goliath toads that live in like the pockets of water they find in the desert, and they're just like fucking a foot in diameter.
Oh, I just thought about Teddy holding a giant toad, and I got so happy.
Nice.
Give James Margin a toad.
He deserves that after
toad.
all he's been through.
We've got 2 more lands to work out, and then Hector and Charlotte.
I did not think of anything for them, so if y'all want to just go hog wild on it, I'm good.
Okay, Hector, safes. Hector is a land of safes, because that fits the rogues.
Gotta have safes.
I'm trying to think of redemption wasn't the word I wanted. It's not the opposite of redemption. He is nihilistic, but I'm looking more for like an endless road to glory, but a single word.
Safes and perdition.
Oh, okay, I like that.
It's like that state of being damned, basically.
Yeah, that's very on brand for Hector.
Yep.
And like a juxtaposition between something called a safe that is like not actually, it's like the safe that he is always seeking is empty, but the the fact that he's always seeking these safes that like maybe the individual ones on his planet that he's opening in order have things in them, but he can never get to the one at the end because it will be empty, and having the juxtaposition between safes, things that are safe, that are meant to be secure against constantly being constantly being in sin, constantly being damned and not being redeemable is also an interesting metaphor for him. Oh, and also one more thing, the state of being damned and therefore not being free is in juxtaposition with breath being his aspect and goes along with his class being rogue.
Okay, so what is his sprite then? Okay, I like the idea of Maeve kind of jacking his sprite. She's like, listen, I can't afford to waste any more time here. This sprite is mine.
I like that too, actually.
Um, addition to that, my yes ands to that is his sprite has not been prototyped up to this point. So when she needs information from him, when they wake up, she's like, I can't waste any more time. I need this sprite, and pushes him into it because he'll cooperate and give her the information that she needs from a sprite. That's a game
Ooh.
construct.
Ooh.
Self-prototype. Well after
Okay.
they
Wow,
enter.
yeah.
Yeah, no, he is his own sprite, and that's part of why he's such a nihilist about the whole thing, is like he's literally seen into the game and seen the bullshit he's expected to put up with.
So now we've got Charlotte, another one I didn't have any advanced thoughts on. Where do we want to go with her? What about the land of boardrooms and something or other?
Yeah, boardrooms and okay, what's something associated with like restoration, but not necessarily the kind of healing you want? More of like a reversion to the status. Boardrooms and reversion, potentially?
Maybe. Like a return to the status quo.
Conservation.
Because
like what I'm thinking about is there is the oldest remaining wooden whaling ship is housed at the Mystic Seaport in Connecticut. And the thing about
This is going places.
yeah, no, trust me, I've got this. The James Morgan is a ship that they restored the ship because it had been in the water for like centuries, and the wood was starting to go, and they were going to have to do something with it. So they very carefully, piece by piece, took the entire thing apart and replaced every piece of wood except, I believe, except for the mast, although I'm not sure, on the ship. So they literally did the Ship of Theseus thing. Like they literally did that, and they gave pieces of this wood away to people who donated money to help restore the ship. I guess when I mean conservation, I mean specifically that kind of like it's well intentioned, but it sort of undermines the very thing it was trying to protect. Because Charlotte isn't interested in actually doing anything good. She's not interested in, like, conservation or, like, preservation of this information for a good reason. It's because it's her job and she needs the money, and, like...
I kind of that's just esoteric enough to be peak Homestuck, and like I kind of like okay. So you said it was called the James Morgan.
Yeah. Let me double check, but I
Well,
believe so, yeah.
yeah. What my brain jumped to immediately was the gem Morganite, which is kind of like this diamond replacement, and it's associated with like healing energies and with compassion. And I kind of like it as like an ironic statement on her role as a sylph, but also a reference to the James Morgan.
are we going with the land of boardrooms and Morganite?
It's weird as hell, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's about as weird as Crips and Neon, right? Or whatever the fuck, like...
Exactly.
Yeah, no. I don't know what kind of Googling free time Andrew Hussey had on his hands in the early 2010s, but like...
Yeah. I don't know. I know that is a deep cut, but I think that's it's just weird and interesting. Like, why the fuck not?
Yeah, no, that's sometimes that's how you get to something that works.
And it's also like, who do we have to justify ourselves to? God?
Exactly. Oh.
Okay, so Charlotte's Sprite.
Charlotte Sprite. Shit. I don't know.
I kind of like the idea of her just like chucking Lee Sizemore in there after a minute. It's like, I've had about enough. I've had about all I can take from this guy.
That actually works for season 2.
It really
It works pretty well. It works pretty well.
chucking him into a sprite and then having him like have to assist people for the rest of his tenure does track.
Yep.
Because now he's forced to help people. Like he should be cryptic about it. He can be cryptic about it. He might still be drunk all the time, but
And I kind of like okay, so we talked about the Delos Corporation as potentially being one of the dreaming moons. I kind of like the idea of the Delos Corporation essentially just being Prospit. And, like, because, like, you know, we've got the Man in Black with heavy associations, and I like the idea of him just being a Prospit dreamer and kind of functionally in charge of this whole shit. And I like the idea of, like, Jack, as part of his scheming this round, is like, why don't I go to a representative from Prospit and just, like, try to sell out the Black Queen? And he talks to Charlotte for about 5 minutes, and she's decided, actually, no, and throws him into a sprite.
I do like that. Also, that would mean, so if we're interpreting the Delos Corporation as being Prospit, that would kind of make the park as its infrastructure Durs, which I think works pretty well if we've got Teresa as the Black Queen kind of being in charge of it and being opposed to the Delos board. That actually works pretty well.
yeah, especially because the park was previously under, I believe, the Argos Corporation, and then it was bought out by the Delos Corporation because they needed investors. So that means that they would have originally been separate entities, and they sort of like merged.
I like the idea of Charlotte kind of like detaching entirely from whatever quest stuff the others are doing, and just being like, "Listen, I know how we beat the Black King. We buy him out."
We need that, we need the grist clicker from Act 8.
Which is a very cerulean way to approach it. What do you mean I can't just buy them?
Can I make the argument then to switch her aspect from mind to life?
Sure.
Because I'm not to be like no doubles with the fucking, because now we've got Dolores and Charlotte in the same session, so like the game with glitch Dolores may make room for it anyways.
Yeah.
But I think she's got a bit more to do with like, especially the boardrooms that's sort of going, hello, life, hello.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point to make.
Yeah, no.
Also, I specifically wrote down Lee Size Sprite as this is the name of this sprite.
Please.
God.
I tried to shorten it up more. It's not going to happen, folks.
So I don't know if we want to talk about any of the specific mechanics of their session, because we've already kind of talked a lot about that, but I think it might be worth talking about the outcome of the session, especially given the seasons 2 and 3. Like, what happens when they get done with all this stuff?
It doesn't necessarily even have to depend on seasons 2 and 3, because it's mostly going to depend on the final scene of season 1.
Right.
Because that seems to be the end of the session. Well, no, hang on. That seems to be the end of the conventionality of the session. Whatever happens after that, this isn't going... If it succeeds, it will not be by conventional means, and it's because everything has gone to shit. Like, it's almost like the reckoning happens, and then it fails further than that.
Yeah,
I agree. I think, like, if I can dip a little bit into season 2, I would say that the session does eventually succeed, but it does it in a really like fucked up, unconventional way. Like I would say that season 2 is continuing the session, and season 3 is when they really succeed, because in season 3 they go whole ass into the actual real world and all the implications with that.
Okay. So we haven't talked a lot about we've referenced a Black Queen, but we haven't really talked about the Black King. Hear me out on this. I kind of like the idea of Dolores, like, going through her personal quest, like, realizing some shit, realizing she's, like, part of the scratched session, and, like, all the pieces are falling into place. And she takes Teddy with her, and Teddy's like, are you sure? Because the frog's not ready yet. And she's like, don't worry about it. And the reckoning happens, and everybody's waiting for her to kill the Black King. And then she turns around and kills the god-tiered Muse of Time.
Oh, shit.
And everything goes to shit immediately.
And that is absolutely a just death.
It's a just death.
Yeah.
the god tier clock ticks over, and he's like, "Thank you. This is actually what I was planning the whole time. Thanks for
Yeah.
that."
Yeah, I like that. And then it all unravels from there because season 2 is a fucking trip.
Because they're dealing with like a post reckoning like Skaya. Because I kind of like the idea of like her being like the Black King is a distraction from what's going on here.
Yeah, I like that.
Well, also, what is a fully realized prince but somebody who makes like a really drastic decision?
Right.
Something I just thought of that we literally have not said yet, but I think is important. The nature of SBURB is such that it is SBURB is the park. Like, SBURB, the game, is the conception of the park. Trolls, like humans in the pre-scratch session and trolls in the post-scratch session, use the mechanisms of SBURB to enter and exit the session. It is not something that you only go into once. It is something that you can travel back and forth as though it is a membrane that can travel both ways rather than a one-way journey.
Tourist attraction SPURB session is actually fucking interesting.
Yeah, I think that works out. Actually, that even brings up some interesting stuff with the later seasons because we do see them in and out of the park, and I think that's really cool.
Especially because that means that explains why our NPCs have classes and aspects, because everybody gets like, think about the way that there is a game in Kitty Quest where you can role play as originators, you can role play as having played SBURB. It's the same sort of thing, except you're actually doing it. You're like what Riff said, tourist attraction SBURB session, literally.
It's like joining an RP server where you've got like these okay, well, we already have these players, so like I guess you can slot yourself in and just kind of dick around on your planet, do some personal stuff, and then your planet will just be swapped out when you leave.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Basically, they are the NPCs are engineered to be the perfect party members. They're given party member like sidekick classes and aspects. That's how they're engineered, so that you can like you'll have your healing class or your support class to go with you because you're special. You have the protagonist classes and aspects. I don't know exactly how they'd break down and market that, but like they'd probably tell literally every single person, no matter what class or aspect you got, that it was a protagonist class or aspect. But like,
Well, especially if you've got like a Lord of Space ruling over it, like you have the potential to just like create planets and remove them without completely breaking the game.
yeah.
Sorry, man, all full up. You got to play the Necrodile.
Necrodile's like the cheap option. Like, these are a bronze package.
That's the starter Fortnite skin that you can't customize.
And it's just you putting on a crocodile suit and running around.
Is there anything else I think we've got a pretty like coherent view of the session and everything that happened within it, to be honest.
Yeah, there's only one thing I would want to cover is like who, if anyone, goes god tier.
That's a good question.
We did just say Ford, so
yeah, definitely Ford. I'm kind of wondering if Arnold didn't go god tier.
I don't think he could have.
Either he never got the chance. I do like the idea of him with a just death, but I can also see like kind of this idea of like, no, I refuse my masterclass destiny and I'm just gonna die in the dirt. Thank you.
Yeah, especially because you can be very powerful without having gone god tier yet.
Exactly. I would say that Man in Black and Dolores both went god tier.
I was gonna suggest Man in Black. Yeah, he's got big god tier vibes. Like, especially, again, I referenced in the first episode how there's that scene where he just like he picks off in a perfect arc all of the Necrodiles in Lawrence's hometown, and like it's very video gamey. Like that's very like Soldier 76. You've got you in my sights. Ping 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 ping. Like the auto target.
That's fair. I do think my thing with him is like so much of his arc in season 1 is this idea of like there's this other level to the game that I haven't seen yet. And I kind of like the idea of him like accidentally busting his quest bed on his first run through And so he like idolizes god tiering as like this secret level of the game.
I actually like that a lot. Like, he's skilled, but he's not god tier. Like, again, to reiterate, you can be really powerful without being god tier.
He's like at the top of his echelon and like
Right.
My only argument against that would be that you could also spin that and say he reaches god tier and then like is like, no, there's more. There's gotta be more than this. There has to be more than this.
He's convinced that there's like a super god tier. He wants to go alt self, but he doesn't know what the words for it are, and he never makes it.
oh, okay. Yeah, no, that fits. That fits.
Yeah, because like he's like, yes, you can be very powerful without going god tier. That was sort of it for Vriska and Terezi, right? Vriska, like, I don't want to say Vriska became god tier because she didn't think she was as powerful as Terezi, but like we're explicitly shown during the moment before Terezi stabs her that they're on equal footing, even though Terezi's not god tier. So like that's interesting. Or, like, that's my justification for why you can be powerful without having gone god tier. But the Man in Black in particular is too powerful and too reliant on just getting shot and not giving a fuck about role-playing having gotten hurt at all to sort of not have god tier vibes.
Okay, how about this for Dolores? When she enters the game with like Maeve and the rest, post scratch, she like finds out her dream self is dead and is like, okay, I guess god tiering's off the table. Turns out she did god tier in the previous scratch, but her powers are kind of laying dormant until she remembers.
Oh, because so kind of going with the Aradia approach to things.
Except she would have never had a dream self in the new session because she couldn't, because she's already god tiered and glitched and
Right.
god tiered.
For Maeve, I would say that we see her going god tier. That part where she finally like has them, I don't know which of the times that she gets killed and then increasingly becomes more aware of everything. Maybe the time where she burns herself and is like completely reconstructed, where she's able to actually leave the park. Maybe that's the ultimate like quest bed moment, but I'd say that she does reach god tier by the end of it.
Yeah, it's either that or when she has Hector like dig the bullet out of her. I kind of like that paralleling to like she has Hector kill her on her quest bed.
Yeah, I do like that too. That's really good imagery. I think that works well.
And Hector is not Tavros, so he does it.
Yeah, breath player thing. Yeah. I was also thinking of that. I was also thinking of like
Also, just the image of Maeve shooting through the top of like wherever her quest bed is housed, like in full orange and red, and she's like, "It's time to fuck shit up, motherfuckers."
Land of Whiskey and Nostalgia. No, they're not. The two carapaces that are the technicians, are they? I mean, one of them is one of them Prospidian and one of them Dursite, or are they both Dursites, or are they both Prospidians?
We said Durst was the construction of the park, so I think they would probably both be Durst.
It also fits in with Maeve's Dreaming Moon being Durst. I think that all fits together really nicely.
She wakes up on her dreaming moon, the first thing she does is take two of them hostage and is like, "You're gonna help me figure this out."
That is what happened.
Okay, so for Bernard, I don't think he goes god tier, and I think every time he gets close, his Muse of Time yanks him back because, like, A, no doubles, and B, he needs to keep Bernard as unself-aware as he can while still having him perform his function.
I think that's 100% dead on. Like we see that happening in the show with that whole like we've had this conversation before. So yeah. Plus he doesn't give off those like god tier kind of vibes. Like he's knowledgeable but not especially powerful. So yeah, I'd agree with that.
And if he was god tier, he couldn't have the whole like what's happening with his body in the second season.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Teddy gets knocked down and gets back up again is the thing.
Yeah, I'd say he's god tier.
Teddy is god tier, but because he's a page, that especially a page of space, it's like it means fuck all for him.
Yeah, he's god tier, but it just means that he's more able to be abused by the plot.
Yeah, he can't ever die for a just reason. He probably would die for a heroic reason, but like it's undermined by the fact that the heroics are fake. Like he thinks they're real, but the person that he's doing the heroics the black hats that he is being the white hat to are aware that it is a farce and it prevents him from ever truly dying.
Right. It's not heroism because it's all an act.
Well, he's also got a muse. Again, there's a muse of time in this session who can just
Yup.
kind of be like, "Welp, that sucked. Let's get you back in place, buddy."
Yeah. Have fun with that.
He can't ever justly die because he doesn't deserve anything that's happening to him. Charlotte, I'm skipping ahead, but I just don't think Charlotte's god tiered. I don't think she like invested.
Not yet. I would say season 3 she goes god tier, to be honest.
Yeah, and I can see that. Like the Reckoning kind of throws a wrench in all of her plans, so she's like, well, I guess I gotta revisit that personal question again. Alright, I think the last thing is like Hector, god tier or no?
I don't know. I'm gonna say yes. He does that kind of like dying and coming back thing enough that I think he's maybe not the most spectacular god tier player, but made it there.
I think once Maeve figures out that like she needs him, like this is potentially like in the last 5 minutes before the Reckoning.
No, he can't. She prototypes him.
Oh yeah, that's
Right,
right. He's
yeah,
not
I
god
know.
tier because he gets prototyped. All right, yeah.
Alright, that's
I was
all.
also gonna say that he shouldn't because he spends like he dies and comes back, but like his whole thing he's like shakes out my beautiful hair. This is my last stand, and like this is the last time I do this. This is the last job. This is the important thing. I'm ready to die at any time because I'm a cool nihilist. Like he's too NPC vibes in particular to strike me as somebody who's able to go god tier. Like again, he has a class and such, but he's so baked into being an NPC that he's not one of the ones who like secretly actually. Well, no, all the robots have dead dream cells. He doesn't strike me as somebody who would go god tier.
Yeah, that's fair.
Plus, especially because there's a clone stamp copy of him.
Right. He's a sprite now. Like it or not.
And he doesn't.
He definitely doesn't. Just one more thing I think is important to put out there. Hear me out on this. Lawrence the Undying, Necrodile Necromancer.
Correct.
Not just that, but Lawrence has a Casey and oh my god, what's Casey's other name that Rose gives her? Viceroy Bubbles von Salamancer. Lawrence has that sort of thing going on where like when Man in Black's like he's like Lawrence is like, oh yeah, I'm a really fucking cool necromancer Necrodile, and I am the Lawrence the Undying, and I live forever. Or I'm what was his name? His mobster name? Elazo. I am Elazo the Undying. And then the Man in Black rolls up and is like, hey, Lawrence. It picks up the crocodile with one hand. What's up, dude? Let's go. And then he's like, no, I'm Elazo the Undying. He's like, you're a cute little turtle. Or you're a cute little Necrodile, aren't you? Come on, let's go, motherfucker.
Ties like a little leash around. Ties a little leash around him.
He calls him a cute little turtle. It is wrong, but he calls him it anyway.
He's like, I am a necrocodile. Get it right.
Oh. Do we have any? I think we've covered all the major stuff, haven't we?
The only thing that we need left to cover is I need to dig up that post that's a Venn diagram of all the himbo characteristics to double check that Teddy is in fact a himbo.
Oh, yes,
Absolutely.
Dumb as rocks, respects women, is beefy.
Yeah, I think he hits them all.
Kind, beefy, stupid.
Yeah.
That needs to be a new section in the document of like, okay, who is the Vriska and who is the himbo?
Teddy is a himbo, and that's it for Westworld, people. I've been a toad masquerading as a frog this whole time.
I'm the tragic lack of James Marsden's pectorals in Westworld Season 1.
And I'm a necrocodile.